Right, there we go. Hello, welcome to episode 411 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Ed Lamb, and my good pal Sean Orford. How are you, Sean?
I'm stunning and amazing.
A momentous day this morning, right? You've had
Yeah, I saw my first person in my consulting room here, face to face. First person in 18 months, thereabouts. Which was quite amazing. Everything was COVID safe and sanitation stations and distancing, windows open, all that kind of stuff. So we complied with all the regulations, but it was my experiment really, because I'm going to start seeing people again face to face. And it's amazing how many people have got used to working online, who even when I say, okay, I'm going to start doing face to face again over the next, few weeks, month, whatever, people are saying, well, to be quite honest, it's easier for me to do it online. If they've got to drive like an hour to get to me or something like that, then it's like, why not?
I know. Well, I mean, we're doing quite nicely with the podcast, I think, like this, to be fair. It's like you're in the room, really, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, but it's weird, isn't it? Because we've kind of got used to it. Yeah.
So, the next few months in particular, but the next few years are going to be interesting to see how how it all pans out, man, and what sticks and what doesn't, and how we all change. But we've talked about that a lot in a few of the last episodes.
Yeah.
We're talking today about smell. We're going back to we're going to not focus too much on COVID, although smell has played a role in terms of people's symptoms for the virus. Interestingly, which we'll talk about. Sean's written a blog post which will be at livingthepresent.co.uk to accompany this episode, which you can have a look at. You should have a look at, because it's fascinating stuff. Because within 5 minutes of kind of seeing it and kicking off discussion, we've just spent half an hour chatting about smell non-stop, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we'll come on to that in a bit. Do have a look at the website, and don't forget about the free meditation files and the discount code for the book that you can get if you sign up to the mailing list. So how's life, Sean? You've had a decent little week.
Yeah. I've done the big thing, because my car's been written off now, where I was hit in the side. It's gone, which is quite sad. And it was quite weird, because I'm not normally attached to material things, but I felt quite sad to see it go. And I had to go and take the last bits of stuff out of it before it goes off to the car heaven. I don't know where cars go when they die, but they go somewhere. Probably be recycled in a million bits. But it was quite sad to see it go. But the one thing that it made me do, because for the last couple of years I've been talking about getting a camper van again, and I always used to have them as I was traveling around a lot working and stuff. So I've actually bitten the bullet. And I'm having a camper van done at the moment. So it'll be ready in July. We'll have to do a podcast from the van.
Actually, you could do a roving podcast. You could show up outside, and I can go in and swing the doors open, and we can record.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you're going to have some good adventures on that thing, eh?
Yeah. And the only problem that I could foresee is that there appear to be a lot of people getting camper vans because of staycations and that kind of stuff, and worries about COVID and traveling. So I think that some of the sites that you might go to are going to be a bit crowded with people in vans. I don't know, but it'll be fun, and just the whole idea. Well, because to me, it's a bit like a mobile office, because I will actually be taking it around. I'll be using it like a car, but I could take it around to places that I visit already. And I did that before, when I had one before, seeing people actually in the van. Get the coffee on,
Yeah, nice. And you can have an e-bike on the back as well for those little jaunts when you're out and about.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's good. So what have you been up to, man?
I've just been getting back in the swing, really. Life's got pretty busy. Got lots of work on the go. With design stuff and stuff I'm doing with local authority, just trying to push on the climate emergency stuff, because that's still bubbling away in the background quite nicely. So we won't talk about that directly today, but I mean, What triggered your interest in smell? Did you smell something in particular that kind of thought you might write about it, or was it a lack
No,
of smell?
this is an accumulative thing. It starts off with me reading research around plastics and chemicals. And then a whole load of things come together. Like, I hate in the fridge where you've got sell by dates and use by dates, because they are so inaccurate. We waste so much food. It's because we don't use our smell. You know, that's what our smell, it tells you whether it's good or bad. Stick your head in the packet and smell it. Don't read the thing.
Yeah.
And some things go off before the thing, and some things go off a long, long time afterwards. You know, but we waste so much. There's that end of it. And then looking at the research on plastics and how plastics affect our bodies so negatively. The word that kept coming up was this odd word, phthalates, that are the particular chemicals that are in scented products. They're also in plastics as well. And I started to realize how much of the smells, as I'm reading this stuff, all the chemicals that we use in cosmetics and perfumes, in diffusers, in laundry products, in all the things that we polish with. And the more I read it, the more I see how dangerous these chemicals are to us on all kinds of levels, not least of all fertility, you know. So yeah. Big deal. You know?
It's massive, man. Yeah, I mean, I've got a load of notes to go out here, and it is fascinating. And the reason I mentioned that environmental stuff at the start is, as I always try and link it back. But I guess in the rush to kind of sterilize everything and make everything clean and tidy and everything with, you know, perfect straight lines, and we're losing things along the way, aren't we? And like, nature gifted us a certain smell that we can pick up, and our certain smell that we give off every now and again. Lifting up my my arms there to show my armpits, and it's there for a reason, isn't it? And it's not just something. It shouldn't maybe be something that is viewed a bad smell as. It's a bad smell for a reason. So is the reason that we smell bad every now and again that we need to wash? Is it a sign, or is that smell? What was the original history of the reason why people like give off a certain odor?
Well, I mean, we know that people give off the smell of fear and anger and all that kind of stuff, and arousal and all that. We know that those are there in the pheromones. The bit that got me was when I was a kid and we lived in the slum before we went to the council house. We had one bath a week in front of the fire in a tub, and everybody would go through the tub. Yeah, and it was actually up to when we went to the council house as well, because they only heat the water for bath once a week, because there wasn't the money to heat it regularly. So there would be baths and hair washes once a week. You could do a strip wash down in the sink, you know, in the kitchen or the bathroom or whatever. But there was no hot water in the bathroom. You're going to get hot water in the kitchen. So I would eat my breakfast with my sisters and my mother and everybody else, trooping past Starkers, having a good wash down in the sink. But everybody smelt of them. They didn't smell of chemicals. And then there was this whole thing that started. It was the BO thing. And the advert was, there's a room full of people and someone comes into the room and one woman looks at a friend and goes in a whisper, loud whisper, BO, because this person that came in the room smelt. They smelt like a person. So the BO campaign was about trying to get people to use deodorants. So people now get into the habit where they stop smelling like people and they start smelling like chemicals. And we see that as being normal. Yeah. And then the thing that followed that was Colgate, and it was the Colgate ring of confidence. You know, you've got to have the fresh breath. And there was an advert where there'd be a woman where the spark would bounce off her teeth, and because she had the Colgate ring of confidence. Ta-da! You know, and I've just seen it further and further, that everything is stopping smelling like it smells. It's smelling like something out of a chemical factory.
Yeah, I'm talking right now about 1.5 miles away from Port Sunlight, where is the home of Leverhulme, as in Unilever.
Yeah.
which is an empire, obviously, that's built on cleanliness. So the original product was soap, so, and
Mm.
all animals keep themselves clean and tidy, to a certain amount. My guinea pigs, which you might be able to hear them, like just having a little suck on their water bottle every now and again. They kind of, I can see them cleaning themselves a little bit. So what is it about humans where there's obviously a point where people need to be clean to a certain amount, but why do we take it to that next crazy level and being absolutely spotless and germ-free 100%?
Well, but people would normally go down to the water source, river, lake, whatever, and they would bathe on a daily basis. That was kind of fairly normal because people's bodies were clean, and people would clean their teeth. Have you ever seen anyone do this, where they get a stick and they make the end of the stick all rough, like frayed out? So it's like a brush, and they would use that to clean their teeth. And very often they'd use salt or something like that on their teeth. But there were no chemical smells. But once we convince ourselves that we shouldn't smell like ourselves, that we need to smell like a chemical smell, which is imitating things like flowers and seaside or mountain springs and whatever, and so that once we convince ourselves, if people start to smell like people, we see that as bad. That's wrong. That's not good. Yeah. And one of the worst things ever when I was younger, I can't remember when it was now, as to check out the advertising, but one company produced FemFresh. So FemFresh was a chemical that you applied to your vagina so that your vagina didn't smell like a vagina. It smelled like a bunch of flowers. Now that to me is just so amazingly odd and stupid. I just don't get that at all. It's like people need to be clean. I'm not saying people need to be dirty, but they need to be able to smell like people. Yeah. Do you see any other animals rushing around looking for things to make them smell different to being the way I mean, dogs smell each other's bottoms because there's a lot of information in that smell and the pheromones. That's what they're doing. They may be recognizing somebody, they're recognizing fertility, but there's all kinds of things that they're getting out of that.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, and some animals have like the most incredible sense of smell. Like, I don't know if it's smell or taste, but a shark can smell a drop of blood from goodness knows how many miles away or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like my sense of smell isn't that good. I don't know why, and I'm not sure if there's any particular reason or if it's good or bad. I remember when COVID came on the scene, and it was understood that a loss of smell and taste was one of the symptoms. Each morning I'd come down and I'd stick my nose in a jar of coffee beans just to make sure that was my one little, I'm all right.
I haven't got COVID, I can smell the beans.
Yeah, but I do like the smell of coffee. And I know people that don't drink coffee, but they like the smell of coffee. And my wife's one of them, actually. But so that's a good little indicator to me. And weirdly, recently, very recently at the weekend, I was at my parents' house in the garden, just catching up with them, as we're allowed to now. And you're allowed to go inside to go to the bathroom if you need to. And I went inside my parents' house for the first time in months, since last summer, I guess. And I could, the smell was kind of, it took me right back. I must have got quite desensitized to it over the years because of going in and out and living there for whatever with them for 20 years or so. But the smell took me right back to childhood. And it's like, even now that the house has got a distinctive smell, and I couldn't describe it to you. I don't know whether it's cleaning products they use or something else. Yeah, it was a very evocative, and smell can have that impact, can't it, on you?
There's a whole difference between if you got fresh rosemary or lavender or even beeswax, you get a natural smell in things, but it's not full of these chemicals. And that's the point, really, I guess. I mean, there's something lovely for me about the smell of lemon, fresh lemon on things. And, when I'm cooking, I'll zest a lemon and it smells great. Yeah, but it's a natural thing. It's not a chemical thing. And that's the bit I think that's getting to me, is that I can see plastic pollution out there. Yeah, but we don't recognize these chemicals that we're pouring around us as pollutants in the same way.
I know I've done quite a bit of work on air quality testing, and I've done some myself actually near school, and working with a lady at the council who was in charge of that stuff when we had a budget to work on that stuff at schools. And she actually found that the air quality was worse in the school than actually at the school gates. It was quite poor near the gates, especially when all the massive cars arrived for that mad frenetic 10-minute period. But they actually found that there were more particulates inside the school than outside, and that was just through accident. They kind of left the machine running, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And they figured out that it was it was the cleaning products that were being used.
Yeah.
And they made some switches to what they did and increased the ventilation, the circulation, and they installed put some natural plants that are good at absorbing and collecting that kind of pollution. And we don't consider the stuff we smell necessarily always as pollution, but I guess the important thing to remember is when you smell something, you're not just smelling it, you're inhaling something really tiny, and it's going into your bloodstream, isn't it? So I don't want to freak anyone out, but there's a lot of work being done now into the wider issues around air pollution, and because we're actually a lot of the time breathing in tiny fragments of plastic and metal, from car tires and from brake pads and that kind of thing, which most of us will be fine, and our bodies can hack it and filter it out, but it just further down the chain, it bumps up the serious health impacts for a lot of people. It's really mad stuff to think about, isn't it?
Well, one of the things that comes out when you look at the research is, apart from the potential kind of carcinogens in these smelly chemicals, is the fertility issues, and it's been known that fertility, particularly in males, and the phthalates are seen to go for the male reproductive system, but the sperm levels in Western males has been going down for a long time. We're so much less fertile than we were a couple of generations ago. And we're at a point where we've just had COVID, and we know that conception rates have dropped by at least 18% during this year, which is COVID related. There's all kinds of psycho research around that. But we've got lots of indicators. I mean, this 20%, 18% reduction in births that come from this year won't appear in the school list for another 5 years yet. But it means that those classes will be getting smaller. Mm-hmm. And if our fertility rates are dropping, then the potential for having a reduced population starts to get bigger and bigger. Which means that you end up then with lots of kind of IVF. People can't get pregnant. Why can't they get pregnant? So then you get into another chemical round to make people pregnant. They couldn't get pregnant.
I think in certain countries, I think Japan might be one. It's the population is actually declining now, and it's aging quite rapidly. And I think that it's quite a scary thing if you're a politician or if you're working in a certain ministry, because all of a sudden you've got to, I don't know, the economics of it are quite complicated, because the people that are earning the money and doing the work and creating the tax base is shrinking, and the people that need support is increasing. So I don't know how we got onto that from smell, but
but it's the same thing. It's like what we're doing is affecting the way that we live. It's affecting our health. It's affecting our fertility. And in Japan, I mean, yes, they've got that burgeoning issue of more and more older people being supported by less and less younger people. But that's what was happening, or is happening here, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the conspiracy theorists said to me that this is a plan, this virus, to take out all the older people so that they won't be a burden on the economy.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you could throw conspiracy theories around about all this smell stuff. My resource for later on is about how advertisers convinced Americans they smelt bad, and so it's kind of the birth of the the fragrance industry. Really, it tells the story of that, and it's, you know, says now it's like an $18 billion industry around smell and fragrances and aerosol sprays. Which again, aerosols, you know, there was some issues with aerosols at the time.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
When I was a kid, was massive. You know.
Yeah.
Around the ozone. So it's that law of unintended consequences. So yeah, you can see psychologically why someone might want to smell nice or smell fresh. But when you multiply that by 7 billion people, you've got some weird outcomes at the other end, haven't you?
But if you think about the evolution of human beings, and human beings like smelt like people. Yeah, I'm not saying they didn't wash and they didn't kind of preen themselves and all that kind of stuff, but they smelled like people. And people were attracted to each other and they enjoyed each other's smells and they cuddled up together and they reproduced. And that's how it's been for years. And it's like suddenly you get this switch that happens with, I guess it's urbanization and it's all the Industrial Revolution. And suddenly we're in this point where we decide to tell ourselves that to smell like a human being is bad. That's wrong. You know, you shouldn't smell like a person. You need to smell like, well, a bunch of flowers, but really like a chemical bunch of flowers. Mm-hmm. You know, and doesn't that just strike you as really odd and strange?
It is really, yeah. And you knew I'd get there in the end, but you know, a lot of people tell me they don't want to ride to work or walk to work because they'll be sweaty when they get there and they might smell. And fair enough, you know, that's the way you've been conditioned. We've all been conditioned to present ourselves in a certain way when we arrive at our workplace or whatever event we're going to.
But that's why I got the electric bike, was because when I was doing home visits to get from one to the other in the summer, I would arrive dripping with sweat. Yeah, which I guess from the way that in the systems I'm in was unacceptable to the system. Yep. You know, I guess if it was acceptable, I could just have a towel in my back pocket and just wipe myself down. I'm here, okay. You know, but to go the electric bike, I can arrive refreshed. Yeah, that's the point, really, I guess.
See, what you've just gone with the system there. What you should have done is you should have convinced people that being sweaty and smelly is completely normal and that they need to change their ways, and just everyone needs to be sweaty and smelly all the time.
Yeah. Come and smell my armpits; they're really good. Yeah.
I mean, can we talk a little bit about psychology and smell? I've got a little paragraph here from an article I'll link to, which says our sense of smell evolved to tell us about the world around us. We could tell if something had gone off, was dangerous or poisonous. It told us about other people and about ourselves. Most of all, our sense of smell evolved to keep us safe. So,
well, there's been quite a lot of research during lockdown about how using these devices has affected communication. And one of the things that was looked at was pheromones, and that because you can't smell the person that you're talking to, you're missing a whole load of information that you would have got, but it would have been either above or below your awareness. You would have just known it. You know, and it's like, it's that thing about people that are sensitive to other people might say to someone, are you okay? And how are they picking that up? And part of that would have been the pheromones. Because when people give off an odor, they're giving off an odor of sadness, you know, that kind of thing. So someone, I mean, it's interesting you said about smells, because my sense of smell is nothing like Ree and her family. They've all got smells like Geiger counters. I mean, they can pick up anything, you know. But for me, I mean, I smell a lot when I'm cooking. Well, I mean, I smell anyway, but I can smell a lot when I'm cooking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But generally, and it's weird, if I walk into a forest, I can smell it straight away. That comes to me like, wow.
Oh yeah, I know. Some freshly cut grass. There's something about that, isn't there, this time of year?
Yeah, or when they're haymaking. That kind of,
yeah. Food's an interesting one because I mean, you know, we're quite a typical family, so we eat good food, good quality stuff, but we're not necessarily always using the freshest ingredients. And I know at some point last year we got one of those HelloFresh free trials where you get sent fresh ingredients, and so we we spent a week or two like preparing really good meals with fresh everything, and the smells were amazing, and the tastes as well, and there's something about the convenience of food and life in general, maybe, that kind of dampens our senses a little bit. Maybe it's a big conspiracy, you know, just to kind of switch us off to life. Or maybe, you know, it's probably not as, it's a bit more complicated than that, I assume.
I think smell and taste go together, so that when you eat something, you eat it with your eyes, you eat it with your nose, and then you eat it with your mouth. And if food looks right, and if it smells right, all the digestive juices start to work. So by the time you start to eat the food, the digestive system is prepared for it, as opposed to just chucking it down your neck, you know.
I guess there's a big lesson here for living in the present, isn't there? About if smell isn't something that you think that much about, if you're not smelling people or the world or the food around you, if you're not noticing it all that much, then there's something wrong, because smell it's one of those key senses, isn't it? And it's maybe not something that we rely on or use that much anymore. So maybe that's a good way to live in the present, is to rekindle your sense of smell.
But I wonder, I mean, obviously I should keep reading the research I'm reading, but I wonder how often our sense of smell is diminishing all the time because of the lack of stimulus of natural smells, you know. So is it in the end, you know, like we'll probably end up losing our legs anyway, because we won't need them, because we'll be in transport all the time. You know, we'll evolve to be without legs. Are we going to evolve to be without smell?
Maybe. I mean, we didn't always have smell. I'm sure it evolved at some point, whether it became more and more important, and it maybe, you know, our brains are more stimulated than ever, but smell probably isn't as big a part of our lives as it once was. Maybe it will just start to tail off. Maybe smell will disappear for humans.
Yeah. When I had my jab, my first jab for COVID, within about 20 minutes, I had the taste of metal in my mouth, like silver paper, like I was chewing silver paper. Really odd taste, metallic taste. So, I mean, those things, the chemicals and that would be the carriers that they were carrying the vaccine in. Probably were full of all kinds of disgusting things like phthalates.
Hey ho.
Yeah.
Just get it down you. What's your resource then, Sean? What's your?
Well, no, my resource is this, right? I'm not suggesting that anybody is dirty. I'm not saying that. Carry on having your daily showers and whatever. But how about you tried for a week not covering yourself with things that make you smell not like you, and see how you feel about you? I mean, there was a big movement a few years ago of people that stopped washing their hair. What they did was they stopped washing it with chemicals. So what they would do is they would go in the shower and they would wet their hair. And when they came out, they would brush it so that the natural oils in the hair weren't washed away by the chemicals, but they did what they were supposed to do. And as you brushed it, it went down the length of your hair.
Oh, wow.
And there were lots of people who stopped using shampoo altogether. And they just had natural hair that was clean and washed with water, but wasn't covered with the chemical.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I remember we were in the caravan for a week. We usually go up at Easter, couldn't this year. And it's in the caravan, it's really cold quite often at that time of year. So it gets below freezing overnight. And so basically we've got a little gas shower in there, but it was so cold this particular week that we didn't want to undress to have to get in the shower. So I had a week without a shower. And yeah, my hair kind of started, I thought my hair was going to go really greasy and horrible, but, and in fact I didn't, because we weren't moving around that much apart from walking, and I didn't get too sweaty because it was, so I actually remained quite clean for the whole week, and my hair was weirdly fine. I didn't put any gel in or anything weird, any products. But my hair, I kept thinking, oh, my hair's going to be so greasy tomorrow. And it wasn't. So, yeah, I kind of learned.
But one of the things that we know is that people's hair gets greasy because they keep using shampoo chemicals. So that they're washing all the grease off, and the response of the glands at the bottom there is to produce more oil. So that when you stop using the chemicals, your hair can stop being so greasy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I need to do more reading on that. So yeah, maybe do a little experiment. Just use soap and water on your body and just water alone on your hair for a week or two.
Yeah, just really simple, and just see, don't cover yourself with the things that you normally would, and like all the armpit unctions, have clean armpits, so that any sweat that you have is fresh sweat. And there's a huge difference between fresh sweat and stale sweat. Yeah, I think fresh sweat, historically and evolutionarily, would probably have been quite an erotic marker, whereas stale sweat would have been, oh my God, you whiff. Yeah. But that's what I mean about people throughout evolution, just like animals now, would wash on a daily basis, but not cover themselves in chemicals. So,
fascinating. All right. Yeah, my link is, I've already mentioned it. It's about the history of advertising and how Americans were convinced to spend billions of dollars on deodorants and antiperspirants. So yeah, fascinating stuff, isn't it? We could talk for hours about this stuff. Yeah.
We need to go and have a smell and see what we can find.
Well, yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon and I'll be able to smell you again, because I'm a Sean smell.
Yeah. that reminds me of, I've said it on the podcast before actually, but there was a guy I know who hadn't seen his grandkids for months because of lockdown. And this little kid, I think he was 4, when he saw him, ran into his arms going, "Granddad, Granddad." And he jumped up and he buried his head in Granddad's neck. And he said to Granddad, "Oh, Granddad, I've missed your smell." He actually said that. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, that's nice. All right. Well, I'll give you a big hug when I see you. And yes.
Yeah. Okay. You've missed my smell. I know.
All right, cool. Sean, you have a good week. Okay. I'll catch you next time.
All right. You take care. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.